Welcome back, my fellow atypical nomads. This video is a travel vlog of my recent bicycle trips in Munich and London. Given this is now the final video of my European bicycle trip, I will dive into something a little bit different. As some of you, my viewers, know, I'm mostly interested in nature and living an active lifestyle, but there's more to my journey than just the love for the outdoors. I currently call the UK home, so my reflections will draw upon my experiences in this country. In this video, I will set the scene by talking about my personal situation and delve into the socio-economic environment that I live in. Second, I will share some of the actions I've taken to navigate my environment. And third, I will leave some food for thoughts that I hope you can take away from this video. Oh, before I keep going, I just want to say that we all have unique experiences, and I'm only here to share my truth, which may or may not be relevant to you. Some of the topics I will be covering are quite sensitive, so if you're not ready to hear out some of these, or if there's something you strongly disagree, please feel free to leave or skip parts of this video. Needless to say, I think we all have different priorities in life and ways of looking at things, so obviously you're probably not going to agree on everything I'm going to say here. I'm so impressed. It's not even 24 hours yet, but everything that I left here, the tents, sleeping bags, and all sorts of things, were all taken. It's pretty amazing. I'm happy because at least they're not just gonna go into the waste. And to be honest with you, I would use them still, but I just can't fit everything into my luggage allowance. It's just literally enough for my bicycle and my trailer. And anyway, I'm now on the way to Munich airport. I was in my 30s, cruising through life, checking off goals, and then BAM! Out of nowhere, I've felt that I've hit a wall of serious depression. For a long time, I saw life as a checklist. Get a stable job, work those long hours, save deposits for a house, raise a family, scrimp every penny, and eventually fade away. It felt like I was trapped in a cycle I no longer believed in. I have tried to live the high life, but despite all the mirage and stimuli, I was angry, sad, and most importantly, stuck. It felt as though I was standing on a shaky foundation. I was dissatisfied. I wanted so many things and new experiences, and at the same time have failed to appreciate the so many things I have in life. Most of the time, the fear of changing the status quo can only be overcome when it is forced upon you. We have all sorts of massive life changes forced upon us all the time, like illness, poverty, breakup in relationships, anything that changes the rules and your outlook on life. And for me, I knew I had to adapt to the new rules. I had to break into the fear of change. To put things into perspective, in 2018, someone near and dear to my heart passed from cancer. As a nurse, she was a constant source of strength, giving more than she took for her family and in the community she worked so hard to support. Her work ethic puts all my efforts to shame. However, I believe her passing may have been triggered by years of exposure to socio-economic and environmental factors that took a toll on her health. The very same environment that I'm currently influenced by. The first key issue that I would like to discuss is the low productivity. The UK has seen stagnating productivity since 2007, despite past growth. The roots of this issue lie in the lack of investment in human capital, on affordable housing, and on transportation and energy infrastructures. Under the UK's housing and public infrastructure planning system, there's a plethora of statutory bodies that put in place ridiculous and impractical requirements. For things like the biodiversity net gain are extremely flawed policies that drive our cost up for a little gain. And that's just one example. If you want to build stuff in the country, there is a massive barrier to entry. And this compliance sector is now bloated and employs a ton of people like consultants, lawyers, and administrators who now need their job to be justified. The lack of affordable housing and good public transportation is getting in the way of matching a good job to the right person. These are both bad for productivity and the well-being of the general working population. Having a stable and affordable home and accessibility to other locations build a strong economic foundation. It allows us to keep our kids in school and our jobs wherever they may be. Energy supply has become too expensive. This has meant that our most productive industries have been starved of the resources, investments, and talents that they needed to grow. We now also have a dwindling population. The replacement rate of our population is said to be decreasing and will have an adverse effect to our economic growth. Next, short-termism. When I say short-termism, I meant the excessive focus on quick profits over sustainable growth. The way our socio-economic systems work, everything has to make money. Everything needs to grow from a financial point of view. A lot of us might be okay with the status quo, but just think of the people whose pay hasn't risen in more than a decade. While corporate incomes, bonuses, and dividends soar, many people struggle just to heat their homes. Many people have less disposable income to finance their basic needs. Our educational and vocational systems also need reform. And instead of directing most of our talents to one industry, we need to diversify. We need to give working adults actionable choices and the flexibility to explore different areas throughout their career so they can perform at their highest level of satisfaction. We need to empower our people to innovate and build their own, so that in aggregate they don't end up reliant on corporations concentrated in one particular industry. So what did we end up with? A declining standard of living with real wages remaining flat for many years, and a higher rate of debt to GDP more than ever before. With a high inequality, there is also a high level of mistrust towards the government. Large companies and government institutions don't typically respond well to the moral qualms of individuals. And without the proper checks and balances, many institutions can go on forever unchecked. The socio-economic system is designed in a way that for you to continue to exist, you must make money. The market has been allowed to decide, and unfortunately, it has decided that it wants maximum profit today over the survival of our society in the long run. But you might say that our institutions are just made of people. Therefore, by proxy, shouldn't we all be held accountable? Earlier, we have touched on the lack of affordable housing. Let's pull up the lens a little bit. Today, many young people are priced out of both buying and renting homes. The housing market is fraught with challenges that hinder real growth. Legal entities have taken hold of single-family homes, and buying a home often means being tied to a mortgage throughout one's adult life. The average house price has increased since the early 2000s, far outstripping the average wage over the same time period. I will explain this a little more later in the video, so please bear with me. The UK freehold and leasehold feudal system is outdated and needs reform. Landlord fees are extortionate and causes unnecessary stress to homeowners. In this kind of system, you might ask whether we truly own our homes. I don't blame you if you see a house as a long-term investment. But the issue is, I heard that many people who have multiple properties prey on young students and young families on the private rental market. In a country in which the supply of housing has been artificially lowered by the government from 1947, the government hasn't made significant effort to prevent people who come into the country illegally. I repeat, illegally. I am an immigrant in this country too, and I have no problem with immigration. Is immigration good? Yes. Is a wide open door good? No. I mean, surely there has to be something in between. Every financial system acts like a betting machine in the short run and a weighing machine in the long run. Why? Because it always self-corrects. Economic cycles go through peaks and troughs, but on average, the trend is upwards if you bear through time long enough. Well, that's good, right? Sure, but the issue is there are certain bad actors in the financial systems that have been allowed to exist. They often profit at the expense of the taxpayers, creating cycles of boom and bust in the economy. Time and again, financial market participants artificially inflate prices, knowing that the government will bail them out when things fail. Our national currency has been weaponized to the expense of the taxpayers. Too much money printing allows the government to look like they're doing a good job. Let's go through how the money printing works and how it affects the wider economy. And in order to do so, let's have a look at our central bank, the Bank of England. The central bank's primary mandate is to foster an economic environment that grows and that is stable. And one of the tools in their arsenal is what we call the monetary transmission mechanism.
4.2 kilometers of unpaved road. My GPS sucks. I can't believe I'm going to an airport with this type of road. Very rough, very uneven.
Through this mechanism, the central bank could influence the economy's behavior when it is overheating or when it needs fuel to keep a steady growth. This is done by altering the amount of bank reserves, which then affects the price of the reserves, the official base rate of interest. Basically, if the central bank wants to stimulate growth through the increase in public spending, it will need to lower the official base rate. And if it wants to stave off the high inflationary environment, it needs to increase the official base rate. All other things being equal, of course. Anyway, I don't wish to riff too long on this, but if the rate of interest is relatively high or in an upward trend, you might want to forego your spending now in order to earn a bit of interest from your savings account. On the other hand, if the rate of interest is very low or negative, factoring in the rate of inflation, then you might be better off enjoying your cash now.
It's already about 1 in the afternoon and my flight is at 4:35. I need to be there at least 2 hours before so I could sort my bicycle out and check in. So I'm hoping this road will get me back to the main road. Let's see.
There are many ways that the Bank of England could implement the policy. They can slow down the speed of the change of the base rate across multiple periods, or they could maintain it at the current level to give a subtle signal without stoking high volatility in asset prices. As an example, following the subprime mortgage crisis in 2008, the Bank of England has set the official base rate at near 0% for a number of years.
Right, there is another road, it's kind of the same. Let's analyze the maps again. Okay, I'll just follow this, I think it's the safest. It's just gonna go onto a junction.
Going through this in detail will take another video, but you can imagine how the high borrowing rates today is putting a lot of strain on the massive amount of debt held by our country, companies, and individuals. In addition to the official base rate, the Bank of England could also employ a quantitative easing, which is basically money injected to the economy for it to keep going. There is no issue in diverting an economy from a full carjack arrest, but when large sums of money ended up as bonuses and speculations instead of being lent out to stimulate the wider economy, then it becomes an issue. Now, before I carry on, I would like to talk about our large national debt and its effect to the wider economy. So how is the national debt created? When our government borrows money from the central bank, it issues debt in the forms of notes, bills, or bonds. A piece of contract which indicates how much the borrower, or the government in this case, owes, including the interest, if any, and when they are supposed to mature and be redeemed at par value. When the government spending is more than the receipts during a fiscal year, the national budget is said to be in deficit and the government will have to borrow money to cover the difference. This borrowed money is then added on top of the existing debt, including interest payments that the country has already accumulated in the previous years. The UK's national debt at the time this video is made sits at a whopping £2.7 trillion. This is about 100% of our national GDP, the total market value of all final goods and services that we all produce in a given period. When an economy is experiencing or heading to a recession, there are three general solutions. One is by imposing higher or newer form of taxes, two is by reducing public spending, and three is by borrowing money. Collecting higher tax receipts makes sense, but this is typically unpopular to the public. Introducing austerity measures, on the other hand, is difficult to navigate, as this could adversely affect the economic growth if not managed carefully. So typically, the government resorts to printing more money.
Now I need to figure out how to get to the terminals. There should be signposts somewhere. So far it looks like this is the right way.
It is okay to support our economy, but mismanaging the money circulating the economy can be a problem. For things like QE1, QE2, COVID support, and so on, we're supposed to be good, as they should in theory lead to more investments in productive avenues that could lead to growth. But having more money available could also mean more purchases of goods and speculations. Money could be used to gamble, which drives up asset prices. One good example of this was during 2002 to 2007. When the money supply has doubled within this short period of time, a lot of money ended up in the housing mortgage sector. As the property prices went up, a lot of people have felt as if they were wealthier.
Just arrived at the departure lounge. I'm probably going to get tolled up with my bicycle, so I will have to park on the side straight away. So funny. I saw my gate right over there. But those gates are specific to certain countries like New Zealand, UAE, Canada. And when I showed my passport to one of the staff, she said, "Go all the way right there." I just said, at least you'll get to stay fit. Just managed to pass the security control, which is a little bit terrible. There's only like 3 people that serves it, and the queue is just so big. A lot of people looks like they're gonna miss their flight.
Now, this is something that many people don't fully understand. As their perceived wealth increases through the increase in the value of their properties, the effect is their children's wealth are actually decreasing. I repeat, our next generation of people's wealth are actually decreasing. On the whole, there is no net gain, because our young population will end up paying even more when they need to buy a house in the future. In fact, they are gonna have to earn even more and have even more debt. The excesses in the house prices until the end of 2007 didn't create additional net GDP value to the UK economy. Instead, it distributed wealth towards those people who already have had houses, i.e., wealthier people, and removed it from the people who cannot afford to get into the housing ladder. On that note, a very loose monetary policy appears to be more symbolic than effective, because it effectively debases the value of our currency. Meaning, when the asset price levels rise, each unit of currency that we have buys fewer goods and services. We've tried to solve inflation by creating more inflation. Easy money. This doesn't work because at some point in the future, you will have to look down and then realize that you are standing on nothing. By losing the value of the currency, say at 10% a year, it does add up to a staggering loss of wealth. If you think about it, it's effectively another form of tax on our hard-earned after-tax income that we just don't see. And that's not me trying to be hyperbolic. Just look at your latest monthly spend on groceries and compare it to what it was around the same time last year. Another issue that I would like to touch on is about the control and the narrative that proliferate our society. Our legacy media often drown out diverse voices, promoting a singular narrative that benefits the few. There's a lot of disinformation, misinformation, and malinformation going around. Gibberish sound bites that resonate to people and make them take a side. The mainstream media is either compromised through financial means or hampered by restrictive rules. People take sides without carefully thinking about what's going on behind the narrative. It has become a matter of us versus them. The masses are being taxed to death while wealth is highly concentrated amongst the few. There has been a cross-generational wealth transfer, an imbalance in favor of the wealthy old people. Britain is disproportionately catered to the interests of middle and upper-class old people, to the detriment of young people. Corporate gains are privatized while their losses are socialized, like the government cash interventions that we've covered earlier. Corporate executives succumb to maximizing shareholder value, and when there's excesses, they do struggle with deleveraging their balance sheets. I'm not sitting here saying that this group of people are evil or anything, but we the people, not the corporate lobbyists, should take control of the policies through our lawmakers. Lawmakers whose legitimacy only exists through our consent. I'm also not sitting here advocating that wealth should be totally distributive. Because in order for you to distribute wealth towards something, you gotta take it from something else. But what I do think is possible is there should be more wealth generative efforts across the board instead. I mean, we should make the pie bigger so that everyone could get a fairer slice and therefore a better start or chance in life. And for this to be successful, I believe our lawmakers should weaken the influence of speculators trying to profit from the big fluctuations in currency, food, energy, and other asset prices. And I believe we should increase investments on human capital and various building infrastructures that we briefly touched on earlier. The total banking assets relative to the country's GDP now sits at around 500% compared to around 50% in the 60s. This signals the fact that money being created is not necessarily because we are producing anything at all, but by speculating in the financial market, making money from money in the form of debt, which is by far the biggest form of economic activity in this country. Today, there's almost no restriction to how much the banks can lend or how much credit they can create out of thin air. Not much has changed since Bretton Woods. We should give a younger and diverse group of people to participate in the policy-making table to make things a little tilted to their favor. Geopolitically, it seems rather unstable as it were in the late 30s. We should divest from companies that are profiting from war and fear-mongering. When our state increases the size of our military-industrial complex, so will the other states. It is a never-ending cycle of geographical insecurity. Collectively, we should encourage discussions between different viewpoints in order to find the truth and the best solution to a problem, and not suppress any particular voice and opinion just because it doesn't fit the narrative of any particular group. I know this sounds rather depressing, but look, we're not gonna solve all these issues in this video. Our free market economy / planned economy is a very complex topic to navigate, and I honestly don't have the answer to all these issues. All these issues used to get into my nerves, especially when people say, "Oh, we need to regulate the bank more. Oh, we need to bulk up the bank's capital reserves to be more resilient. Oh, we need to break up the investment banking activities from commercial banking activities." And then the policy gets reversed a few decades later. I mean, it's just one big smoke screen. Even if I continue chirping in, I think it will take a whole new video to even scratch the surface. We live in a world filled of distractions, often forgetting the value of simplicity and connection to nature. We also live in a culture where there's an enormous mirage of external stimuli. Buy this, purchase the latest, the newest thing. Our collective excessive consumption affects certain externalities, such as cleaner and a balanced biodiversity. Remember, just because something doesn't carry a price in the market, it doesn't mean that it's not valuable. We should all look in part through ourselves and be more mindful of how we as individuals should play our part in the society. It hurts me to articulate all these issues we've covered today, but what can I do? Realizing the gravity of these issues prompted me to make profound changes in my life. I took up rock climbing, which has become a cornerstone of my lifestyle. And nowadays, I carefully choose work that is flexible enough to allow me to align my values and lifestyle. Now, don't get me wrong here. Working for a company in exchange for our time is not bad. For many of us, it is a necessary part of life, and money is a tool that allows us to rally our survival. But no matter what you do, at least try to have a shred of a positive impact. I probably sound like I'm reading some kind of 10 commandments here, but I'm cognizant to the fact that all of us have varying needs and priorities in life, and I'm just someone who have identified a lot of the BS and decided to live. I came to appreciate that our mindless consumption has already taken a huge toll to our nature, so now I try to reduce my impact by living minimally. I'm not trying to create a diatribe against consumerism, but in the past few years, I refuse to be defined based on what I possess and what I produce in a materialistic world. I exercise more, sleep more, and meditate more to be more mindful and free from stress. I enjoy the fresh air, feel my breath, and try to be slow each time I bite my food. We've come to a critical point where processed foods are now handed out like candy. So no, I don't need anything more that makes the population obese and sick. I am not one to tell people what to do, but what I want to say is, if I want the world to change, then I need to move towards a positive direction by doing something purposeful and fulfilling. Through meditation, I remind myself that no matter how chaotic and hectic life has become, I hold the power to return the foundation of peace and tranquility that exists in me. Meditation allows me to think freely and liberate my consciousness. As Hermes Trismegistus has said, as above, so below. By learning the hermetic principles of correspondence, polarity, rhythm, and so on, and combining them with my meditation practice, I have learned to raise my vibration to the higher plane of being, such that even if the world around me is uncertain and difficult and confusing at times, I have a stable foundation that allows me to thrive, such that whenever I have thoughts telling me that I am separate from the world and there's nothing inspiring about me, I am able to shift my focus and reconnect with what I am part of. Skin to skin, breath by breath, atom by atom, I am made of the same energy that created other humans, plants, animals, and every element in this planet. There's still a large chunk of the cosmos that we've not been able to observe and learn about. But know this, our consciousness and this physical world are made up of the same energy that created the universe. There is a connection between our human brain, our environment, and the cosmic web of galaxies that all follow the same pattern of networks. Life is short and there are many paths through it. Therefore, I might as well choose a good one. Perhaps in a more profound sense, there is a higher being who has given me an extraordinary gift of life. And when all is said and done, I want to be able to answer a very simple question about life. What did I do with it? Okay, so that's a lot, so I will stop cramming things here. I know some of the things I've shared here may seem unattainable for many, but I promise, change is possible. If you are someone who shared the same experience, I hope this video helps you navigate some of the challenges in life. If you are already doing okay in life, I wish you all the continued successes. But always remember to act kindly and be considerate to those who are less fortunate. To wrap it up, here are a couple of thoughts to ponder. Respect your limits. In a world pushing for constant achievement, don't forget to honor the natural rhythms of your body. In today's day and age, there's often pressure to push beyond these limits, to work longer hours, achieve more, and constantly strive for progress. But remember, this relentless pursuit can lead to burnout, stress, and disconnect from the natural rhythms of life. Practice mindfulness. Embrace compassion for all living beings. Our choices matter, and supporting the planet is part of our collective well-being. This might involve making more sustainable choices, reducing your consumption, or finding ways to give back to the natural world. By living in a way that supports the health and balance of the planet, you will contribute to the well-being of all beings and gain more choices and freedom. Elevate positivity. Consciously choose the influences you allow into your life. Surround yourself with people who motivate you, make you laugh, and encourage your dreams. Seek out communities that promote positivity, personal growth, and good energy. You have to give it out there. It's not about how much you have. You have your time, your talent, your treasures, your patience, your love, or your kindness. Whatever it is, what will you do with it? In terms of media, be intentional about what you consume. Instead of watching news and movies out of habits, or losing hours on social media without purpose, choose contents that mostly uplift and inspire you. Find resources that expand your mind and make you feel good and re-energized. In terms of your physical environment, take some time to create a high vibrational environment in your home or office. Remember, the space you settle in directly reflects your energy. A big renovation is not necessary. Small actionable steps can make a difference, like painting your room, decluttering your space, adding plants, including objects that inspire you, and allowing some air and light to come through your space. And maybe create a cozy corner for exercise, stretching, or meditation. Alright, I promise to now end this video with these final words. The most essential thing is to be proactive in choosing both internal and external influences that support the vibrant life that you want to live. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope you found something meaningful in my reflections. Mad love, peace out.